Do you think it's possible to play a video game for 1 minute straight without looking at a second screen to keep you entertained? If you ask this question to anyone with a fully formed brain, the answer would obviously be yes. But try asking your 8-year-old iPad cousin and he'll have already forgotten the question by the time you finish your sentence. It's not your fault though, he's just transfixed by an endless feed of Victory Royale TikToks, Kinetic Sand ASMR videos, and Family Guy shorts. Does this mean that the future is doomed for all but the lowest common denominator of indie games? Something you can kinda sorta pay attention to while consuming a steady stream of content on your other devices? Maybe, or maybe not. I don't know, but that concept alone led me to dream up an idea for an incredibly cursed mod to make indie games appeal to a wider audience. With a bit of effort, I was able to take Squirrel Stapler from the supposedly boring hunting simulator it is today, and turn it into something that even those with zero attention span can play. At least for a few minutes. Hey everyone, Dave or Effie here. Yeah, I know, all my hair is gone. It's definitely been a while since I had short hair, but I'm actually going on a vacation real soon, so I figured it was time to get a trim. Not that it's actually relevant to the video or anything, I'm just getting ahead of the comments section here. Anyways, back on topic, the concept of games needing to appeal to audiences with shorter and shorter attention spans is something I think about a lot. I mean, as an indie dev myself, I don't really design games for people with minimal attention spans, but considering different playstyles is always in the back of my mind. Obviously everyone has a different target audience that they're trying to make games for, and I'm not really trying to aim for that iPad cousin audience in the first place. And speaking of indie game audiences, it's kinda clear that Squirrel Stapler wasn't really aiming for that audience either. Unfortunately, one of the downsides of your game blowing up is that it starts reaching people you never thought about in the first place. Steam Spy estimates Squirrel Stapler to have between 50 and 100,000 owners, which is both extremely vague and still probably incorrect. But at the least, we can say a ton of people have played Squirrel Stapler, and a good chunk of them fall entirely outside of that original target audience. If we take a look at the Steam page, we can see that out of roughly 900 reviews, 96% of them are positive. So what makes up the remaining 4%, you ask? Well, it's mostly people complaining that the game is too short. But there's also a bunch of reviews that mention that it's boring, slow, or not action-packed like the developer's previous game, Dusk. These are exactly the type of players I was alluding to earlier. Easily distracted, quickly bored, and in need of constant stimulation to be entertained. So what changes could we make to Squirrel Stapler to keep these people engaged for the excruciating 30-minute runtime? Well, I'm glad you asked, hypothetical viewer, because I have just the thing for you. I created a Squirrel Stapler mod that lets you pull out a smartphone at any point in the game and load up some prime attention bait content to keep your eyes on the screen. Inside we've got things like ASMR soap cutting, Family Guy funny moments, Fortnite Victory Royale compilations, Minecraft PvP montages, the cursed video from the ring, and of course, generic Subway Surfers gameplay. What's that? You want me to talk about that last video I just mentioned? Well, of course Subway Surfers would make it into this. Oh, you mean the other one? Don't worry about that right now. We'll get back to it later. Maybe. If you're feeling hyper-focused, you can always turn off the video feed and just play the game for a bit. That is, until you're bored about 30 seconds later and need another video fix pumped straight into your brain. Waiting for some squirrels to spawn? Why not catch up on some high-level Minecraft gameplay in all of its washed-out, hyper-compressed glory? Need inspiration to pull off the perfect squirrel shot? Fortnite sniper streams have got just what you're looking for. And if you're in the mood for some tingly, off-putting audio, just pop open an ASMR video and have at it. But this mod isn't just limited to the hunting sections of the game. Those few minutes where you're hanging out at home with your wife are a perfect time to catch up on your favorite Family Guy clips. Just like Lois, your wife is the only sane person left in this house. And speaking of losing it, they say one of those videos makes you die in 7 days, but God is coming in 5, so who even cares at that point? Now that's just a quick rundown of what this mod can do, which leaves us with a much bigger question. How did I make this mod in the first place? Thanks again, hypothetical viewer, you're really on the ball today with these leading questions. You see, I made a video a few months back where I cracked open Squirrel Stapler and showed all the weird and interesting secrets I found inside. Since I already had a way to run my own code inside the game from that project, I'll skip over that step and jump right into where I started with this project. I knew that I needed at least 2 models to work with, so I opened up Blender and modeled a rudimentary arm out of the basic cube. To match the lo-fi aesthetics of Squirrel Stapler, I opted to keep everything pretty low poly, with some cartoonish proportions. As for the phone, I also made that out of a basic cube by just scaling it a little bit. 6 faces were really all I needed here. The textures would handle the rest. I gave the arm its own material, while the phone had 2 materials, one for the body and another for the screen, to make it easier to play videos on. After that, I made a quick and dirty skeleton so that I could animate the arm to move in a vaguely human-like fashion. I spent some time fiddling around with the sloppy bones and low poly oddities to make 2 main animations, idle and tap. As expected, idle just kind of floats the hand around a bit so it's not completely static, and tap makes the thumb tap twice on the screen, so I can sync it up with some transitions later on. With all that out of the way, I took the rather ugly arm and phone over to Substance Painter to whip up some low-res textures. The arm itself started as just a basic skin color, but I still felt like something was missing here. So I decided to slap a mud material on top with a lot of transparency so it looked just a tiny bit dirty. I figured some dude walking around the woods hunting squirrels for 5 days straight would have at least a little bit of grime on his arms. As for the phone, I put a simple metal material on it and painted on a few minor details to add a bit of flavor. I also had to throw my channel icon on the back, even though you'd never actually be able to see it in game, because why not? With the models, armature, animations, and textures out of the way, I just had to bring this into Unity to put it all together. To save some time, I opened up the project I was using the last time I ported some random junk over to Squirrel Stapler. You can see Pikachu, Crash Bandicoot, and Kingseeker framped from that video, but what you didn't know is that I also had Big the Cat and Big Hat Logan's Big Hat. I didn't end up finding a use for those last two, so they weren't in the video, but hey, I've got them fully functional in Unity, so they could always make an appearance in the future. Anyways, I pulled in the arm to set up the models, materials, and animations so that they would be easy to transfer over to the actual game. At this point, I needed some terrible videos to test out, so I imported some absolutely atrociously compressed files to fit the overall vibe I was going for. I might have also edited these videos to make them look and sound way worse on purpose, but let's just keep that between you and me, okay? With everything working as intended here, all I needed to do was bring this over to Squirrel Stapler so I could get started on programming everything. But since I know some game devs will be curious, I should mention how I set up the videos real quick. Everyone else, just stick with me for a second. So basically, each video is running on a video player component underneath the phone arm object. The videos themselves are sending their output directly to a render texture. That render texture is being used as the sole texture for the phone screen material, so I can disable all the video objects to get a blank screen, or turn one on at a time to get video and audio from the appropriate source. Okay, quick tech talk over, let's see what this thing actually looks like inside Squirrel Stapler. Well, that's definitely not right, but it's nothing we can't fix. After a bit of tweaking, I was able to get the arm to be a decent size and placed somewhat accurately to where a normal arm would be. Well, if you completely ignore the fact that our character already uses 2 hands for all of the gun animations. I like to think that with all the cursed stuff going on, he just managed to grow a 3rd arm. And what better use for that arm than watching mindless videos while you hunt for more squirrels to staple it. Moving on, I spent probably the largest amount of time on this project just programming all of this to work as I'd originally pictured it. Along the way, there were plenty of bugs, like the videos playing audio from a certain spot near the player that made no sense in relation to the phone. Or the fact that you could end up with duplicate arms, each playing their own videos, completely assaulting your senses and destroying your speakers at the same time. But after a lot of trial and error with the code, I was able to get all the features I wanted working well enough to make this video on it. We've got on and off states for the phone, 6 unique videos to scroll through, animations whenever you change videos or turn off the phone, and, as a little bonus, you can turn on super fast forward mode if you're really feeling starved for content. Oh, and you can even put the phone away when you want to spend a little time with your squirrel-ridden wife. How nice. But whatever you do, just be careful what you're watching over by the Shady Shack. Who really knows what goes on behind that sinister squirrel JPEG? To wrap up this extremely cursed video concept, I just want to say that this project was surprisingly fun to work on, and I hope it was fun for you to watch too. Despite this being an awful dystopian idea for the future of gaming, I don't think games are actually going to look like this anytime soon. But what do you think? Is this truly the zero attention span future that we're headed for, or will long-form media be around forever? Whatever the case, I'll be here to keep making games and little game dev projects like this one, however terrible they may be. If you've got got any games or video ideas in mind for the future, just leave them in the comments. As always, you can find me on Twitter or in the official EphiTV Discord server. And if you'd like to see more stuff like this, subscribing is always greatly appreciated. I mentioned it briefly at the start of this video, but after this drops, I'm actually off to Japan for a few weeks. I may post some trip updates over on Twitter, but obviously the channel will be kinda quiet until I'm back. I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into some big projects once I'm back from vacation, so I hope to see you all real soon. But until then, have a good one, folks.